As I'm getting older, chip upon my shoulder, rolling through life to roll over and die. La 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 la.
Hey guys, it's Streed, and today I'm going to be reviewing the 1970s road drama, Scarecrow.
Scarecrow was directed by Jerry Schatzberg. It starred Al Pacino, Gene Hackman, and Dorothy Tristan. The film was about two drifters named Lionel and Max. Lionel was in the Navy, so he's returning home to his former girlfriend Annie and their child to deliver a lamp. Max is fresh out of prison after serving 6 years for assault. The two wanderers meet up and have aspirations of starting a car wash business together in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, despite the film's apparent quality and evocative themes, it's been virtually forgotten. Al Pacino is best remembered for his roles in films such as Scarface and The Godfather. Rightfully so, since those films were superlative as well. But Scarecrow deserves its own recognition. It's a very insightful, character-driven, touching story about friendship and the journey of life.
Well guys, that film was absolutely amazing. I first discovered it on Turner Classic Movies. I saw it airing on Turner Classic Movies, and I read the plot synopsis, and I was thinking, wow, this sounds like it would be a pretty compelling road drama. But unfortunately, I got really tired, and I slept, and I missed it. I didn't even get to the credits. I was going to watch it a few hours later, because it was coming on at like 5 or 6 a.m., and I've noticed that all the greatest movies on Turner Classic Movies, they always air in like the very, very late hours, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, I slept through it, but I made note to watch it again. And today, I finally watched it, I finished it, and I'm absolutely touched. I loved it. Now for the strengths. There's lots of beautiful landscapes, lots of beautiful scenery. You get to see lots of roads and highways. There's multiple locations, perfect thing for a road film. And there's beautiful shots where you see the sunrise. And the film actually begins very, very quietly. You know, you see these hills and such. And that's another thing I loved about the film was the slow pace. I love slower paced films as long as they are compelling, they're not boring, the characters are interesting. I do love myself a slow burn, and this is definitely one of those slow burns. But it's, like I said, still very enjoyable. And that's mainly due to the main characters portrayed by Al Pacino and Gene Hackman. Honestly, they hold this entire film on their shoulders, and without them, this probably would have been a really boring and awful forgettable film, which it isn't. I also enjoyed the music. It's used sparingly, but when it is used, it's very catchy, very country-esque, and I enjoyed it. There's also a nice little soul jazz song in like one of the club scenes, which I really enjoyed. I gotta find that song. And speaking of which, the two main characters, Lionel and Max, they are incredible. They have such an amazing chemistry towards each other. Lionel is sort of the more upbeat of the two. He's very comedic. He's very happy-go-lucky. He's silly. And this adds this adds a layer to Pacino's acting prowess. You know what I mean? Because we've seen him all in a lot of serious roles, and he's still serious in this, but we haven't really seen him in much like sort of comedic roles, and it really shows what an incredible actor he is to make him completely unrecognizable from his performance as Michael Corleone and the Godfather film, and because that was just a year prior to this, and he's completely unrecognizable here. He's completely different, and that is so incredible to me. How he can just how he's not your typical sort of same actor who kind of plays the same roles over and over, sort of like Bruce Willis, which I hope he's doing better on his condition. That really made me feel bad that he was that I found out he was suffering from some kind of debilitating condition. Well, anyways, the other character, Max, he's played by Gene Hackman. He's sort of the gruff, sort of masculine bar brawler. He's very quick to anger. He sort of bottles up his emotions, and he's always ready for a fight. Like, this guy, honestly, I think if they couldn't have gotten Gene Hackman, I think it would have been great to cast Robert Shaw. I think he would have done great in this role. But still, Gene Hackman, honestly, I think out of the few Gene Hackman films I've seen, this is definitely my favorite Hackman film. He did incredible in this. And basically, like I said in the scripted segment, Lionel, he wants to see his daughter again. Well, not his daughter. He doesn't actually know if his child is a boy or a girl because he ended up abandoning his girlfriend before he even knew the gender. So he wants to see his child again, and he wants to sort of reunite with his family because he's feeling really guilty. And Max, he wants to start this business in Pittsburgh, but he can't do it alone. And the two characters, they go from they change throughout the film, because at first Lionel is sort of he's like a happy-go-lucky guy, but towards the end, after some crushing news, he is absolutely shattered emotionally, and I'll get to that scene. And Max, I think Max goes through the most change, because he starts off as this really solitary, sort of lonely guy who can't really admit that he's lonely. He doesn't really trust anyone. He only grows to trust Lionel, and it's really beautiful because in the first scene, like one of the first scenes, the first 15 minutes or so, he's like, well, I don't trust anybody. I don't love anybody. I don't care for anybody. But in the final scene, he's the one saying, I can't make it alone, man. I can't make it alone. And he's begging for him to wake up. And that brings me to the multitude of incredible scenes. There's a scene where Max takes off his shirts and he sort of dances around in the bar. And I think there's some significance to that because throughout that's another thing that shows that Max is like changing as a person, because he's known for like wearing multiple shirts as like layers and such. But in that bar scene, he sort of strips them off and he has a good time. You know, he embraces having fun. In fact, he almost gets into a bar fight until Lionel walks away. And he's like, wait, come back, buddy, come back. And he's like, see, I'm a scarecrow, I'm fun. And he starts dancing around. And honestly, the whole shirts as layers thing, that really spoke to me, because I would always wear coats as like to feel secure, as a sense of security, because you'd feel bigger, you'd feel more, protected, and that's part of that's part of the reason why I wear sort of like bigger coats, if you know what I'm saying. And one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the film is when Lionel, he calls Annie, and he finally calls her, and she's like really pissed off at him. Understandably, she's calling him a bastard. She's saying he abandoned her, and it turns out that she had a son. And props to the director or the casting officers or whoever who found a kid that looks very much like Al Pacino. This little baby boy who looks very much like Al Pacino, because that was great. He actually does look like Al Pacino's son. So he calls her on the phone, and she's like really upset with him, and she ends up telling a lie that her son died in birth. No, her son died because she fell in the steps, and it killed him, and he wasn't around to help her. And this shell shocks Lionel. He is absolutely heartbroken, and he sort of it makes him lose his mind. He suppresses it, pretends it doesn't happen. He pretends to be all joyful right after the news to Max. He's like, "It's a boy! It's a boy!" And he leaves that little lamp on this side of the car, and he plays with these neighborhood kids, and he ends up trying to grab one because he's really he's consumed by the grief of thinking he lost his son, and he's just feeling awful. So he's dragged to this mental institution where he's catatonic and he's been sedated. And this is the scene where Max is like, "Come on, buddy, I can't make it without you, man. Wake up." And the film ends up ending with Max trying to fulfill his promise to open up a car wash in Pittsburgh, but he's having some trouble getting his money out of his shoe. And I sort of interpreted that last scene as Max being sort of lost without Lionel, because Lionel, he taught him how to laugh again. He taught him how to let loose and trust someone for once, because I have a feeling that Max has been through a lot. He's been betrayed, he's been hurt, and he's been abused. And I sort of relate to his character a little more than Lionel, because I have a temper myself, as you guys have seen sometimes. I've been hurt, I've been betrayed, I've been abused by people I assume that would care about me. So I completely understand Max's thought, but it was really Jordan who was there to help me let loose and have fun. You know what I mean? But enough about that. As for the weaknesses, I don't really have any, honestly. That was it was a really great film. I really enjoyed it. It may not have much of a plot, but even if some scenes sort of technically drag on, they're still made fun by Al Pacino and Hackman's performances. Well, guys, that was the review, and I will see you all next time.